Welcome back to the Why Mindset Matters podcast. I'm Eslana Lower. I'm an author, speaker, resilience mindset coach. I'm a nurse, a midwife, and a mother of 4. And if this is somehow the first episode of mine that you've found, I do want to start by providing a trigger warning. I do discuss the loss of my teenage daughter Riley to suicide. In this episode, I want to talk about how perfectly imperfect should be the goal, because we fall into the trap of thinking that things should be better or need to be perfect in order to make us start or follow through or do something that we really desire. And if we fall into that trap, what we end up doing is robbing ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, anyone who has the potential to be a part of our journey, rob them all of the value it is that we offer when we show up authentically and raw in a way that is perfectly imperfect, instead of waiting for things to be amazing or immaculate or whatever it is. And what got me thinking about this is I did my first episode with a guest, and I will share that this Sunday. But I started the podcast with no intention to have guests. I had too much to say, and I was very content with the intention behind Why Mindset Matters being me sharing this platform and everything that I had to offer. And the more people I spoke to and said I had a podcast, the more people would say, "Oh, are you having guests? Do you want a guest? Can I be a guest?" or whatever it was. And it kind of happens enough. You start to think, "Oh, is this like, should I be doing this? Is it weird that I'm just sitting on my own talking to people or talking to a camera essentially?" And then as I came towards closing out season 1 and setting the intention for season 2, I had someone in particular that I really did want to interview who works around mindset as well. And as I mentioned, the episode with him will be available on Sunday. But I had approached him to say, "Will you be my first guest?" And he was really happy to and excited and asked where we would be recording. And the platform by which I record this podcast and how I edit it is one platform. And then I have another platform that uploads and it allows me to shoot it out to about 20 different hosting platforms, including Apple and Spotify and YouTube. So I use those two things. I've learned how to do everything. I do it all myself. And I could have used those platforms to do it like a Zoom thing, but we wanted to do it in person. And when he asked where I intended to do it, he suggested another studio, saying it would be better quality. And it was not cheap, but he was really happy to offer to pay for that because his intention was, "I want to show you how incredible it can look and feel, and I want you to start at that level." And so he offered to sponsor that episode, which he did, and I'm so grateful for. And we got the most beautiful footage and it came through amazing. And even the girls were like, "Mom, look at you. This is amazing." And we sat and watched the 45 minutes or whatever the recording was as if it was a movie. And it was brilliant. I'm so grateful for it. And Darcy and I did the interview and I didn't need a list of questions. It was just a conversation style and it was great, incredible. But when I was waiting for it, it got sent to me and the file was so big that my computer had trouble just downloading it and the internet kept dropping out. So it took me hours of this happening and again and the internet dropping out and I couldn't get it onto my computer. And I'm thinking, man, he paid all this money. I feel like it would have been a little bit easier. And it's not even anybody in particular their fault. It was just I wasn't ready for how big the file would come. And when I got it onto my computer, I was trying to upload it to this platform that I use to edit. And just, it wouldn't. I have honestly spent hours on this thing that was supposed to be the one that was perfect. It was supposed to be the one that was better quality than what I do. And it is great quality, but I could not get it to upload to the platform because the file was too big, which wouldn't allow me to clip it down to smaller little clips to use on social media, which was supposed to be one of the benefits. And then when I did get it partly into this system, it wouldn't align the voice with my mouth moving. So then it was like one of those old SBS movies where the sound comes and then their mouth moves and it's doing my head in and I'm thinking, man, this is just supposed to be easy and perfect. And it was stressing me out. But it made me realize that I had this perception that if we went over here and we paid all this money and we did this was going to be so much better than the way that I do it. And both of them have their pros and cons. But I managed to clip it down using my Mac because I could not get it up into Riverside. And then the sound wouldn't align when I put the video on Instagram. So I just had to put a song over it. I was defeated by that stage. I thought, you know what? It looks so beautiful. It looks professional. It is doing exactly what I want it to do. It doesn't matter what I was saying in the video. Let's chuck it up with some music. And I did it. It was perfectly imperfect. That was fine. And it got me thinking about how whether it is the perception that the perfect podcast means I need to host guests regularly, or that I need to be in a studio, or that I need to have the money for somebody else to do the editing, or whatever it is, it's a trap we fall into, because the reality is I've done an exceptional job of creating this podcast that I've edited myself and fine-tuned the sound, and I uploaded it and it goes out and there's no issue. And so if I had the perception that this podcast wasn't going to be good enough unless it was immaculately presented, you know what? How many of you have watched any of this on a video? I guarantee that 99.9% of this has been listened to in your car or through your headphones. So the video part, apart from benefiting you on social media and presenting you as looking really professional and incredible, it doesn't have as much weight because not as many people are watching, not for me anyway, on YouTube. And that would be the only way that you'd watch it other than the clips that I put on Instagram. So I started to cut myself some slack that it didn't need to be perfect, that I didn't need to beat myself up because I don't have the money for a studio or an editor or whatever it was that was my perception of what perfection would be. And I've also done an interview where I was the guest and we did it via Riverside, like a Zoom call. And it was an amazing interview. And not because of the quality of the video, that's for sure, because the quality wasn't as great as the studio one, but it didn't take away from the fact that that's not what people are necessarily looking for. And I know when I've thought about, I don't know if I want to be on camera, I look at myself and I just see flaws and I see this, that, and the other. But then I've had feedback from people going, I just love listening to you. I love the way that you speak and how honest you are. And I'm so engaged. And the last thing I'm looking at is, has she got a crinkly forehead because her Botox wore off? And so we can really get in our head about whatever it is in life and then end up our own worst enemy by holding ourselves back. And since I did that episode, I've had so many conversations with people who are in situations where they're writing a book or they're waiting to start a business or they're waiting for the perfect timing to have children or whatever it is that you have planned for your life or your intentions are, and you may have fallen into the same trap. I'm just waiting for the timing to be right, for everything to be perfect, or for me or the business or the structure or the stock or the book, whatever it is, to be perfect, because then I'll be ready to release it on the world. But the reality is, the longer that we stay stuck in waiting for perfection, which is impossible, by the way, the more we rob ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, and anyone fortunate to be a part of our journey of whatever it is that we have to offer in life. And then we only get one red hot crack at this life. We're going to end up down the track, and the only regret you're probably going to have is, I wish I did things sooner. I wish I bit the bullet and I just did it. I wish I realized how perfectly imperfect I was, it was, the timing was, whatever it is. Because the reality is, like our bodies, when we get further down the track of life, we're going to look back with so much empathy and compassion for that younger version of ourselves who beat ourselves up thinking we were fat or we were ugly or that we wanted to be in better shape, because the older version is going to wish that they had this body. They're going to wish they could go back and love on this version of ourselves and make us realize how fucking beautiful we are, how incredible our body is, how incredible our health is, and what a valuable opportunity we have to show up for ourselves instead of chasing or perceiving there to be a need for perfection in order to show up, in order to appreciate, in order to act or allow, or whatever it is. So this last week, I've really been pondering that, how across the board we can fall into that trap. And how many people I see around me who I look at them and they're so beautiful and the way they show up in life and what they have to offer. And then I think about how even at the end of season 1 of this podcast, I was in this dark place of negative in a critic and in a dialogue that was saying, you know, I lost my dog, Bodhi, unexpectedly, and that just compounded my grief. And I found that I was really struggling and I missed 2 episodes. So I had this inner critic telling me, well, now you're just an epic failure. You failed at this like you fail at other things, and you might as well just quit because now you've just cooked it. How had I cooked it? How had I failed? Because I said that I would do 2 episodes a week on a podcast and I missed 2, so therefore I'm an epic failure. And would anyone listening to me be like, yeah, bitch, you should pack it in. We've been waiting for these episodes and you didn't post them, so you're an epic failure. You should really pack this in. And then the inner critic's telling me, maybe you just wrote the book for a cathartic experience for yourself, and now you're just an epic failure at that, because that's never going to get printed. And so I'm struggling with this enemy in my camp that is my inner critic that's worse than anything that could happen from outside of me, because who needs enemies when you've got an inner dialogue like that? And if I'd listened, if I'd let the need or the perception of there being a need for perfection in order for there to be any form of success, contentment, peace, happiness, whatever, be the determining factor or the winning argument, the book never would have arrived. I would have quit the podcast. And the reality is I used it instead to go, you know what? Nah. This is just my nervous system trying to keep me small because that's where it's comfortable, and I'm outgrowing this, and that's where this discomfort is coming from. So I'm going to stop listening to that and lean into this transformation that I can feel is happening. And I went away and I've come back from Bali, and there's no more inner critic. There is just not enough hours in the day for all of the stuff that I am getting done. And I actually don't know how I'm making most of it happen, because I got that book edited. I didn't have the money, so I figured it out, and I got it formatted, and I accessed some help, and I got my book cover done, and it is live. I am a globally, internationally published author that you can access my book on Amazon, and it is perfectly imperfect. When I ordered the author's copy, it came with a banner across it that said not for resale and a grey sign across it. And that's because they give it to you quite a bit cheaper so that you can check it. And they don't want you selling it on and making more money, because let's be real, when you write a book, they keep most of the money. You don't write a book to get rich, let me tell you that. And so it came, and it was quite grey. And if I'm honest, I was quite disappointed by the way that the book came and I would say lack of quality in the cover, because I'd paid for quite a nice cover and it just didn't present the way I was expecting. And I just thought, you know what? Perfectly imperfect. If I let that deter me, then it would never get out there. And you know what people are actually buying? Not the fucking book cover. That's for sure. The contents of the book, what it is that I have to say, what it is that I have to share, and the power of the words, and tapping into this capacity we all have for this untapped and uncapped resilience, and that we actually don't really get to familiarize ourselves with until usually significant loss in life. And then we come face to face with these choices that facilitate us realizing our greatness. And our greatness doesn't always look or feel great, let me tell you that. It feels like challenge. It feels like struggle. It feels like fuck you and fuck life. And it feels like, when am I going to catch a break? But it is this, I can't even do it justice. And that's the whole point of the book, is it does it justice. And so I have a big heart, an important and valuable message, and no malicious intent. Then fuck the noise, fuck the haters, and fuck the book cover not being good enough, because I'm not going to let the need for perfection or perfectionism stand in the way of me getting my message out into the world, when the reality is I didn't write the book to become an author. I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote the book to let this thing out of me that needed to come out because I feel like it's a part of my purpose. And so when we step beyond the need for perfection, when we step into the power of the realization of what is my purpose here, if there's something that's niggling at you that's really a burning desire, it's probably because it makes up a good portion of your passion and your purpose. And you're supposed to honor yourself and allow yourself the opportunity for healthy selfishness that says, I'm going to show up in this life perfectly imperfect and unapologetic about it, because the reality is, whether it's how shiny and nice my podcast looks or how shiny and perfect my book cover looks, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to let the need for those things. And don't get me wrong, if I had the money to sit in an amazing studio and have somebody else edit my podcast and put it out there so shiny and perfect, seemingly perfect, 100% I would pay them. If I had the capacity to pay for a big publishing house to put my books in bookstores and shops and everything, 100% I would pay. But I don't have any of that. And if I hold myself back because I don't have those things, then who am I really? Like, I'm just robbing myself, my friends, my loved ones, and everyone yet to meet me or be impacted, or never meet me, but be impacted by the capacity that I had to turn my pain into purpose and put those words on the page so that it could possibly positively impact somebody. And anyway, so that's been my week. That has been my week and a half of processing how we really get caught in the trap of needing things to be perfect, and that I would encourage you for at least the next week to catch yourself when you're hesitating about things because you think you're not ready, or you think you're not good enough, or things aren't right or big or better or perfect enough. And just remember, just perfectly imperfect. Take the step, take the leap, take the action, set the intention, act with intention, and start showing up for yourself. Because if you have a big heart, no malicious intent, and nobody is getting hurt by the actions that you take, then do it. Do it. Because what's the worst that happens? You try at something and you appear to fail, because I truly believe that even when things aren't working out, they're working out. And so if you lean into that as well and you go, okay, that didn't work out, not sure why, it doesn't mean it's a failure. It may mean it's a seed and it needed to be planted and time for it to grow. And it may be that you come full circle in life and end up under the shade of a tree that grew from a seed you didn't realize you were planting at the time. So if you see there is no failure, there's just forks in the road, we can go on a path thinking it's going to lead this way, and then it leads another way. It doesn't mean we failed. It means that we did exactly what our instinct told us to do and went along a path that may lead us back here. Not sure. But being able to frame it that way means that you get a much more comfortable ride out of life. And you don't need things to be perfect. I had an appointment with someone at the end of last week, and this appointment was set by their receptionist for weekly appointments over a month, and I put work off for it. This was a specialist appointment, and it was something that was really important to me. And I arrived, I planned my whole Friday around it, and I arrived at my appointment, and as I walked in, I said to the lady who I hadn't met at the counter, I'm just going to use a toilet. And she's kind of looking at me, and I'm thinking, why can't I use a toilet? Like, why is she frowning at me? And she said, she's not here. And I said, what do you mean? And initially, my nervous system was like, I planned every Friday around this, like everything is around this. And she said, it's not in the diary. She's not. And I'm standing there and I'm like, yep, okay. And she's chasing up, nope, it's not happening today. And then she figures out that she can offer me appointment the next day. And on that Saturday, I randomly had nothing planned. And so I was like, yep, that's fine. I'll come back tomorrow. Everything is fine. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I said, well, you know what? Even when things aren't working out, they're working out. It's a beautiful day outside. It started out overcast. Now the sun's out. I'm going to go for a walk in Burleigh. And she goes, what a beautiful way to look at it. And I'm thinking, yep, just makes for a better ride, because what am I going to do? Let my whole nervous system get upset over something that's beyond my control and then affect my physiology and then my whole day? Because if I get upset over this, you know what I'm not going to do? Go for a walk in Burleigh. I'm going to go home and I'm going to waste my day being frustrated by something that's outside of my control. And it wasn't really anybody, like, whose fault, really? It doesn't matter. Why does it matter? And I got my appointment for the following day. So I head into Burleigh, and as I come around to see a friend, I end up there just at the right time to meet somebody that I was so supposed to meet, to create these connections and facilitate more of everything, joy and connection and the things that I'd been saying that I was going to manifest in my life, because I was in the right place at the right time. And so then I walk from there around the corner just at the right time. The two people that I would want to see but haven't in a long time come around the corner, and they see me and we stop and talk, and then they are talking to me about the podcast, and they're suggesting this connection that was so valuable that I would never have facilitated or known to even seek out on my own. Anyway, the short of it is, neither of these connections that then resulted in more connections of the very things that I said I was manifesting into my life would have occurred had the appointment taken place, because I would have been in a completely different suburb and missed these people. Had I had a bad attitude about the perception of being inconvenienced by my appointment not going through, that would have resulted in me going home, not going for a walk. And so you can start to see how even when things aren't working out, they're always working out. When you lean into that with trust and keep acting with intention, you'll find yourself in the right rooms, even if it's not the room you thought that you were supposed to be in at that time. And so much beauty came out of that day. And then the next day I went and had my appointment, which was incredible. And I had this sense of fulfillment and contentment from this 48 hours that I never would have got from just going to that appointment. And so everything is just perfectly imperfect. And when you let it be that way, your life is actually perfect. It is exactly the way it's supposed to be because you're not clinging white knuckles trying to control everything, or with this perception that when things aren't working out, it's an offense or an insult or an inconvenience to me. If you set your intentions in life, if you act in alignment with whatever it is you want in your life and what you're trying to manifest, and then you go with that flow, because it is flow. If you're setting your intention, if you're acting with intention, and then you find yourself in alignment, it's just flow. You don't get offended. You don't get triggered. You just live, and it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. So whatever it is that you are procrastinating about, just do it. Just allow it to be perfectly imperfect, and then watch how perfect it turns out. Because I promise you, that burning desire in you is your purpose, and you are supposed to do it. And maybe whatever it is something that you think you're supposed to do that ends up putting you on a path to something completely different, but happens to be the most incredible outcome that deviates completely from where you thought you were setting yourself to go, setting your journey to be, and you end up in a completely different destination, but so meant to be there. And I think regularly about, look at how many magical synchronicities have to happen in life for any two people to cross paths. There's no accidents. It just blows my mind. And if you see the beauty and the perfection in that, how can you not see how perfect everything can be when you just let it be imperfect? Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now. That was my experience. I have decided that I don't need to be perfect in whatever my perception was of how a podcast should be, or how many guests I should have, or that it should be more than just me talking. And I don't need to fall into the trap of thinking, well, now season 2 needs to be all about guests. As the right guests arise and manifest themselves in my life and my journey, then I will have them on the podcast. But I also have too much to say. I have too much unfolding in my life that I want to share. So I've decided that I'm going to stay true to my perfectly imperfect podcast, Why Mindset Matters. And I'm going to bring you my Wednesday episodes every week. And then anytime I have a guest episode, I'm going to upload that on a Sunday as a bonus episode. And obviously there will be footage of that, so you'll be able to watch that snippets on Instagram and on YouTube. But the audio will be available on all other platforms. So I have a perfectly imperfect episode that I will share because I could not edit it or clip it. So it just is, and it's fine. It is better than fine. It's amazing. He was amazing. The studio was. I did great. Everything's great. So I will share that this coming Sunday. And then be back with you next week on a Wednesday for the next episode of Why Mindset Matters. I am extremely grateful to be sharing this and everything in my life with you. And I very much look forward to seeing you in all of the upcoming episodes. My name's Eslana Lower. You can follow me on Instagram at Eslana Lower or at Resilience Mindset Coach. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you again soon.